Let's get this sports podcast party started, all right?
The J-Reels Podcast.
Why don't you wait until July 1st to make an announcement? What a disgrace. He can rack up all these numbers in October, November, and December, but what really counts is let me see this in January.
The sports rebel without a pause, delivering fast-paced, jam-packed sports talk like no other.
Listen, I gotta call it as I see it. He is not a good player. I'm sick and tired of having to deal with the disappointment of this franchise. When does it stop? And yes, another winter that I can sleep in peace. Coming correct, direct, and in full effect. Let's get it.
This is the J-Reels Podcast. Welcome aboard.
What is happening, my good people? Greetings. How are you? How's it going? How's everybody doing out there? What is the latest and greatest? Hope everybody's doing well, feeling fantastic, in excellent spirits. We're just a week away from the unofficial beginning of summer, and it's certainly going to feel like that in these parts here in the Northeast. But we still have another 7 days to go to get to that. But right now is your opportunity and your time to get your complete fill on the entire sports universe, as I got you covered, as this is the J-Reels Podcast with Joe J-Reels. For my first timers, welcome aboard. And for those who've been banging with me going back to the very beginning, somewhere in the middle, or even as early as this past Thursday, I welcome you guys and gals back. And yes, I did not do a live podcast on Thursday, some extenuating circumstances, but that's all right. I'm back today. I'll be back on Wednesday with another live stream, 12 noon Eastern time. You definitely don't want to miss that. That is more of an interaction with you guys and gals, where here on the podcast, I have my stream of consciousness. I get out everything I have to say about what's going on in the sports world, and then I'll take your questions, comments in the 12 o'clock hour, and then also on Thursday, right before the holiday, we'll reconvene at that time. And as far as what is happening in the sports world, I mean, let's see. You got a conference final that's set in the NBA. You got a Stanley Cup playoff, which tonight is a Game 7. We'll unpack that. Break up the Mets. Is this their time to take off? I'll get into that. Who is Aaron Rye? I'll get into that. Ronda Rousey, Gina Carano. Do I smell a fix? I'll get into that. The NFL schedule release. I know it's been a few days, but there's some things I got to get off my chest. So you know I'll get into that. The Preakness has come and gone. 2 legs of the Triple Crown. I'll get into that, albeit for about 30 seconds. And so much more. Tennis, you got the French Open, which is a week from now, but should they even play the men's side of the draw? I'll get into that. So yes, this is sports talk at its finest, people, and I'm going to uncover every little morsel nugget on this podcast where you're not going to get anywhere else. This is your one-stop shopping for anything that's happening in sports, and I got you covered the right way, the passionate way, the real, true, none of this clickbait, rage bait garbage. All right, so let's get right to it. Let's start off with what happened in the association last night, because you did have a Game 7. I understand we'll have to go back a little bit to Friday night, where the Pistons had a big-time performance. They went going away there, fourth quarter. And listen, it's old news now. So really, what can we say about the Pistons that after last night's just debacle, they might as well have me suited up for the Pistons. And who knows, maybe I would have even given a better effort. But even with the Pistons winning that Game 6 on the road after the Cavaliers won Game 5, and to me, I didn't know which team or who to trust or what was going to happen or transpire in that Game 6, but I thought the Pistons were going to get home last night, considering what they learned from in the previous series against Orlando. And I understand, I've said this a million times, and I guess I got to say it for the millionth and first time, that the Game 6 against the Magic was more of an indictment on them than it was the Pistons, because they couldn't throw the ball into the ocean off a boat. They made 4 field goals in the second half, and that's why the Pistons were able to get to a Game 7 win in advance. Where last night, it was almost as if the almost half-court shot by Donovan Mitchell that he banked off the glass, that was almost a springboard for what we got to see their second quarter, obviously third quarter, and beyond. And I'll start off with the Cavs, because let's give them credit. Mind you, you got a typical James Harden performance where he was 2 for 10, 9 points. Now, he didn't turn the ball over the way he did in game number 6, which was deplorable, where he had 23 points in the game. He had 8 turnovers. For a guy that's been in the league 100 years and handles the ball as much as he does, you would think he'd be a little bit more careful with it, and he's not. And listen, he gets off the griddle considering that they won by 31 last night. And to me, that game wasn't about Harden. To me, it was, yes, Donovan Mitchell, but give it up to guys like Jared Allen, who had 23 points, Evan Mobley, who had 22. What about Sam Merrill? To me, that was the big focal point as he was draining threes left and right, ended with 23 points in the game, so picked up whatever offensive slack that James Harden was unable to provide. So for Merrill to go ahead and put up that offensive performance, which was absolutely needed, and the Cavaliers shocked the world. This team, up until Game 5, was unable to win a road game. They lost all 3 games in Toronto. They lost the first 2 games in Detroit. All of a sudden, Game 5, they woke up and then look at last night. And listen, the Pistons, they're going to get their pound of flesh from yours truly. But I truly believe that the Cavs, not to say that they were destined, not to say it was their time, blah, blah, blah. And I'll get into a little bit more of that in a minute. But when you're going to get contributions from Merrill, from Jared Allen, as we all know, he's more of a alley-oop, put-back type guy. He's not going to put up 23 points in his sleep from a mid-range game or 3-pointers or anything like that. And when you're going to have your, in essence, role players, I know Jared Allen's a starter, but he's not going to average 23 points a night. He's not going to average anything close to that. But when you're going to get that in a Game 7 from him, you already know that this is going to be the Cavs' night. And here they are. 125-94. The game was out of hand. It was 17 at the half. The Pistons, they couldn't even get close. 17 was the closest that they got throughout the course of that second half. And I guess let's cut right to it, and I'll get back to Donovan Mitchell and the Cavs in a moment. And we'll talk about Cavs Knicks. We'll break it all down. And obviously with Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals, which to me is going to be the NBA Finals, people. I don't care what you think, say, whatever. But listen, that was not an egg that they laid. Sadly, the Pistons, that was a big, giant deuce at center court last night. I mean, for them to put up an downright putrid, it's Game 7 in your building. All right, you can lose a Game 7. I get that. Nobody's saying that they couldn't lose. But to not show up, to not even put on the uniform with any pride, knowing that you won a Game 6 on the road. And listen, I get it that the Cavs came out like gangbusters, but man, that was just a pathetic, one of the worst Game 7 performances, especially by a 1 seed in the history of the NBA. And let's face it, for J.B. Bickerstaff, the coach, who I don't think should go. I know I was asked that earlier this morning. It's valid, but that team made it to the playoffs last year, gave the Knicks a good fight, lost in 6. They lost all 3 games in their building in that series. They go on to win 60 games this year. They were a 1 seed. All right. They had to thank the grace of Orlando not being able to buy, rent, or steal a basket in Game 6. And here they were pushed to the brink again to where they, in elimination games this postseason, they were 4-0 up until last night. And then all of a sudden, it's almost as if they looked into their gas tank and they said, man, we don't have a drop left. Oh, well, I guess we're not going to show up, and that's the end of it. I'm not going to put this on Cade Cunningham, although this is on his, you want to say his legacy, whatever. I mean, it's way too soon. He's just getting his career started. But definitely not a good game, but I'm not going to put it all on him. Jalen Duren, he had a playoff from hell. A guy who was an all-star this year, a guy who anointed himself as a guy that on a young team as a secondary player, he is not that. And he can work on his game throughout the entire offseason. But we all know this is a league that's not predicated on back to the basket, post-up moves, mid-range game. It's like, do you have a three-point shot or not? I mean, that's all there is to it. But he should still work on his game. I would call Kevin McHale or Hakeem Olajuwon and say, hey, and even go to the front office and the coaching staff to be like, hey, This is what I've done this offseason. Let's use me more in the post as opposed to just trying to chuck threes. And they need help in the worst way. Tobias Harris, where have you gone? He had a great start to his postseason and even early on in the series and was a complete invisible man. What was he? 5 points, 0 for 5 from the field. And this is a guy that was scoring 20 points a game or somewhere in that vicinity. Listen, this was just a god-awful effort and a gigantic thud to their season. And JB Bickerstaff, I'm sorry. I understand that you're going to look at the season and say that it was a success where you won 60 games and 1 seed, et cetera, that, there was nothing disappointing about the season. I'm sorry. You ended this season as woefully, as pitifully as possible. And I get it. He's not going to lambaste this team in defeat. But you got to have a little bit of honesty to say, hey, listen, this was disappointing. Maybe not the season overall, but Game 7. As Cade Cunningham said in the postgame, he said, yeah, this sucks. It's disappointing. And right, I get it that the big picture, it's still something to build on, considering that this team has made strides from last year winning 45 games to 60 games. What are they going to do next year? Win 62, 63, 64 games? I don't think so. Look at the Cavs last year. The Cavs had the 1 seed and were bounced in 5 in the second round by Indiana. And here they are this year in a conference final. Maybe the same blueprint could be a carbon copy for what the Cavs did last year to this year, and maybe the Pistons for next year. Who knows? But obviously, we're not going to know that. But that team needs some reinforcements in the worst way if they have any shot to get to a conference final and beyond. That's all there is to it. So to me, Bickerstaff stays. They're going to have to bring in some people there. More. Listen, I know Tobias Harris is a veteran, but they need winners. They need guys that know how to win in that locker room. And guys that can score. Because the Duncan Robinsons of the world, they're not going to save you. And I understand he gave you, 13 points last night? But that's not going to cut it. Especially when Cade goes 5 for 16 and Jalen Duren's not providing anything. And that's all you got. Paul Reed, a good role player, but he's not going to give you 18 and 10. So that's what you have there with that series. And as far as Cleveland goes, I'm going to say this. Donovan Mitchell, I understand he made a big thing about it. Going to his first conference final, scored 26, 8, and 7 or whatever it was by the end of the game. Now you got to go out and do the job. Don't be happy that you made it to a conference final. Now that you're there, do something about it. And to me, and here's a little precursor, I'm going to fill you in on this, people. I get the sense that this upcoming series between Cavs and Knicks has Knicks Sixers written all over it. Let me explain. When the Sixers beat the Celtics, as you all know, down 3-1, they came back, won the final 3 games, won the game in Boston, slayed the Celtic Dragon and all their own personal demons as well. They had never come back from a 3-1 deficit, haven't beaten the Celtics in 42 years, etc. You know the whole deal. And now they do so, and they get to a conference semi, and what happened? Game 1, they get run out of the gym. Last night, they win 125-94, albeit not a close game, so they rested a lot of their regulars. But now, 48-hour turnaround to go to the Garden. I get it. 9 days off and maybe 9 days of rust if you're in the blue and orange. But it's a scenario where this is tailor-made for the Knicks to just literally roll over the Cavs in this series. And could we see a carbon copy of what we saw in the previous series, the way the Sixers were just dismantled in game 1, and then obviously as the series wore on, they had no answer for Jalen Brunson, Karl Anthony Towns, Deuce McBride, of all people, where they went on and swept the Sixers. Now, as I preview this series, nice little segue, I'll say this. If the Cavs have any shot to win this series, any shot, they absolutely must win tomorrow night. And I understand they could lose tomorrow night and then win a game 2. I get it. But to me, you really want to put the Knicks on notice? Win tomorrow night. And for this reason, as I mentioned just 60 seconds ago? The Knicks have not had a competitive game in 9 days, and really you could say 11 days, because that Mother's Day massacre, the game was over in the first quarter. So the Knicks had their feet up at the half. So now, if you're the Cavs, you go in tomorrow night with the mentality of, we're already down 0-1 in this series. We got to come out, throw everything and the kitchen sink, and you can only hope to get close to, if not equal value of what you saw last night with Sam Merrill as well as Jared Allen. Evan Mobley, you think is going to get his points. You would also think Donovan Mitchell and James Harden will do better than 2 for 10 for 9 points. You would think. But you know that Garden crowd is going to be salivating. They have waited almost a week and a half. And think about it. 12 days since the last playoff game in that building, which will be 2 weeks ago this coming Wednesday. And you know all the stars are coming out. They have home court where if the Pistons would have won, they would have had to go on the road. This is why they need that game tomorrow night. If they don't, this is a, count 'em, 5-game series at best. I don't think they'll sweep the Cavs. I think the Cavs will win a game in their building because they've been a good home team. Game 6 notwithstanding against Detroit. But to me, we can talk about matchups, break it down, and yes, I understand the size of the Cavs. They can match up with the size of the Knicks, whether it's Karl-Anthony Towns, OG Anunoby, who's going to come back from the hamstring, and what they're going to do as far as Jalen Brunson. Donovan Mitchell had no answers for him 2 years ago when they played in the first round. And James Harden, we all know he is not a defensive stalwart in the least. So, although size I like of the Cavs, but what's in their chest? All right, they did it against a Piston team that, let's face it, were completely outmatched last night. But now they're going to go up against a team that is destiny's on their side. The Knicks fan has been waiting for this. They've been waiting for this since last year against Indiana. And that crowd, again, they're going to be bloodthirsty. So win tomorrow night, and then we got a series. If they don't, I can see that 2-0 going to Cleveland into the weekend. And the Knicks will win a game in Cleveland. I think they will. And then they'll come back to the Garden for game 5, and then there's your coronation. And then who knows? They may burn down 33rd and 7th and 8th that night. But Brunson, you know he's going to get to his spots and get his shots. Karl-Anthony Towns, let's see what Jared Allen and Evan Mobley are going to do to try to neutralize him. What I had thought about earlier was you wonder, I would think Evan Mobley is going to be on Karl-Anthony Towns because they don't want Jared Allen. They want Allen in the paint if you're the Cavs. You don't want him out in the perimeter. And I'm sure the Knicks are going to do their best to try to switch off and have Allen come out so they could avoid. And listen, Mobley's a very good defensive player, as you know, but at the same time, Allen, he is that guy, the rim protector. So that's going to be interesting to see how Mike Brown, who's going up against his former team, how they're going to try to pull Allen away from the basket and give more opportunities to have shots at the rim. But we all know at the end of the day, the Knicks, based on especially what you saw in that game 4 against the Sixers, they're going to have their opportunities from 3. But I really don't see the Cavs winning this series. I don't even think they have a shot. They have the talent, but there's guys that just don't trust. And now you got to wonder, Donovan Mitchell's been around the block. I get it. This is his first time down this avenue. But he's been in the league, what, 9-10 years or however long it's been? I'm not going to say act like you've been there before, but no, now that you're here, let's go. I don't want to see the putrid performance that he had in game 6 against the Pistons. I mean, that was one that you really thought, this is where the bad Donovan Mitchell's going to come up, and watch him come up small in game 7. And he did not. He had help, which I get it, team effort. You're not going to put it all on one guy. But if he, and to a lesser degree, James Harden being the faces of your franchise, These guys got to deliver. They just can't defer, or they can't go 3 for 18 and expect to win. So I don't see the Cavs. I don't see it. And I see the comments piling there. I'll get to the comments, like I said, in the 12 o'clock hour. But I think it's Knicks in 5. So I'm going to get off that series because I want to get to that and a zillion other things here because there's a lot to unpack here on this podcast. But now you have San Antonio and OKC. And prior to that, I guess I got to talk about Friday night where the Spurs just manhandled the T-Wolves. And I said this Saturday on the channel, on YouTube at JReels, my little shorts, my 1.5 minute blurbs on my thoughts, feelings about games, situations, etc. I got nothing against Anthony Edwards. And listen, we knew the Spurs after losing game 4 and then they won game 5 the way they did, especially second half, and then obviously just blew the doors off of the T-Wolves there Friday night. But for Anthony Edwards to give daps and hugs with 8 minutes to go to surrender, the comparisons to Michael Jordan end right there. You think Michael Jordan's going to do that? Listen, that's not to say at the end of the game he's not going to fist bumps and congratulate, whatever. But you're going to go and do that? Granted, the game is over. I understand. But still, wait till the final buzzer before you go to the other side of the court to exchange hugs, congratulations, etc. To me, that was a bad optic on him. And I get it. He's got a little bit of that DNA in him, but that line is drawn in my eyes based on that display. I still, when I think about it, it's cringe. Not to use a Gen Z term, but anyway. So now let's fast forward. So it's Spurs, OKC. I'm sorry, people. I'm saying this right now on May 18th, 11:21 a.m. The NBA Finals is the Western Conference Final. And this should be a knockdown, drag-out 7-game series. We know about the regular season. We know about what happened in the semifinals and the NBA Cup. Not that that matters now, or what happened in the regular season. SGA's your MVP, which was announced yesterday. Obviously, it was between Jokic, and Wemby. And you wonder whether or not Wemby and his competitive juices, if he's going to take that a little bit personal, or it's a thing where it's like, I got my whole career. SGA was great, and that's it. If I'm Wemby, I will look at that at this series and use that as my personal playground to do whatever it takes to dismantle that regular season MVP award, to show the team, the Thunder, and the rest of the NBA and the sports fans out there to say, yeah, he may have won the MVP, but I'm winning the series. I'm taking over. I'm taking this personal. I don't know if he's going to come out in the press or he's going to have that demeanor, but we're going to learn a little bit about Wemby in this series and whether or not he's going to use that as any type of motivation, or is it going to be brought up? You would think the media is going to bring that up at some point. Let's say the Spurs win tonight, let's say the Spurs win tonight and Wemby puts up 30, 18, and 5 and with 5 blocks. I'm sure somebody's going to ask him, are you going to use this as somewhat of a vendetta against your MVP counterpart? He may take the high road. But I would love to hear him say, nothing personal against SGA, but I'm the best player in the league. And this was only one game, but I'm going to do my best to show that we belong in the finals and I'm the best player in the sport. Now you got something. But it's going to be fascinating. Chet Holmgren going up against Wemby, those two guys, 7'3" and 7'4", respectively. The thing is that as young, I know a little inexperienced, although they did show you a little something here in this series against the T-Wolves, but the Thunder are just loaded. And as I said the other day, and I'm going to say one more time, the only team that's beaten Oklahoma City Thunder are themselves. They play well-disciplined defense. They aren't sloppy with the basketball. They don't make a lot of mental mistakes. Yeah, they're going to turn the ball over. They're going to have their moments, don't get me wrong. but they're not a team that is just going to unravel. We saw it last year in their road to a title. Down 2-1 to Denver, winning a game 4. Down 21-10 in the first quarter in their building in a game 7 against Denver. Came back, cut it to winning 5 into the second quarter, and then ran past them as if they were standing still the remainder of the game. Down 2-1 to Indiana in the final, winning a big game 4. I mean, the team is battle-tested. They have the DNA. They have the pedigree. They have the depth. I understand they don't have many guys that are 7'4", but they got a lot of big bodies. Isaiah Hartenstein, the aforementioned Chet Holmgren. You want to throw Lou Dort at him, they could do that. They got Alex Caruso to throw on Stephon Castle. They have plenty of guys to get to their backcourt, Dylan Harper, etc. I mean, to me, I'd be more shocked if this is a 5-game series, and this is where it's going to be interesting to see the likes of SGA and company and how they feel. Jalen Williams is supposed to come back, who, as we all know, has been in and out of the lineup. As much as I talked about maybe the MVP being personal to Wembanyama losing out on SGA, does the Thunder, are they going to take losing 4 out of 5 personal, knowing that, yeah, they may have gotten the best of us in the regular season, but now it's the playoffs, and we've been down this block. Are they going to use this as their battleground to just wipe out the Spurs? Dare I say in 5 games? That's not my prediction. But could I see that? I could see it. And the other thing, too, is that you got to give it up. Mike Daniel, their coach, very underrated. And you also got to understand, that team is well coached. I get it. They got a million assistant coaches on the team, etc., but he's the head man. And he's done a magnificent job with this team for the last 3 years. Even the 1 year that they lost in the second round of Dallas 2 years ago, they were a 1 seed. And here they are. Conference finals, back-to-back years, trying to go back to a final, even win it, which we haven't seen since the 2017-2018 Warriors. And to me, I just think that with everything I said, the experience, the DNA, the depth, the length, I'll say OKC in 6. I can see it going 7 games, but how I look at it too is that how worn down will the Spurs get by the time we get to game 5 and even game 6 for that matter? I think they're just going to run out of gas. Would I be shocked if the Spurs win? I have to say, yeah, I would be. And it's not that the denigrate or dismantle the Spurs and what they've done here this year, but are they ready to take that next step? They would show me something if they do, and it's going to be on the back of, number 1, Victor Wembanyama. And I tell you, if they win that series, watch out, because now it's going to be a Spurs dynasty, although you know how I feel about dynasties. You got to win consecutive, and the Spurs never did that. But for what Greg Popovich did in the previous generation with Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, etc., we could be seeing the 2.0 of the Spurs dynasty with this young core. But I don't think it's going to start in this series. So that is my NBA, my predictions. And I'm going to say this before I pivot. You know Adam Silver and company, and I'm sure they probably feel confident, and they would never admit this. But you already know he is hoping for the Knicks to get to that final. Because whether you have OKC in the Knicks or San Antonio in the Knicks, they're going to hit the jackpot. Mainly because you have the Knicks there. And you have New Yorkers all over the place. If the Cavs somehow, some way get to an NBA final, it will be a disaster. I don't care who you are. Think about it. If the Knicks would have won and beat Indiana last year to play OKC in a final, how do you think those ratings would have been? I'm not trying to say they would have been astronomical, but they would have been a lot better than those first few games. I know game one, Halliburton made the big shot and they won game one. And I believe the rating was decent, but the rating was, I think, 11 million people watched that. And at the height during those final few minutes when they came from behind, I believe they were up by like 9 with 2 minutes to go. OKC, and they lost. I think it peaked at maybe 14, 15 million. If the Knicks were there, it probably would have been close to 14 million watching. Not 11 overall. So Adam Silver could tell you, he could sell you a bill of goods. Deep down in his soul, he wants to see the Knicks in the finals. If it's Knicks OKC to see if they go back-to-back, great. San Antonio, I understand the Knicks fan, they may have visions of 1999 all over again. To the older Knicks fan, the young Knicks fan, they couldn't even tell you what happened in that final or how it went down. Whatever. That was their first of 5, if you recall. And to me, I think, listen, you can't go wrong with OKC or San Antonio, New York. If it's Cleveland, OKC, Cleveland, San Antonio, and listen, Cleveland, San Antonio, that'll bring you back to the 07 final. Visions of that deplorable series with Boobie Gibson and LeBron's first final. But anyway, let's see how this all shakes down. And I'll be on top of this as we move it along. All right, any other notes? Let me see. I think it was another NBA note I wanted to bring up. Hold on. May have jotted it down. No, that may be it. Oh, should I even talk about Daryl Morey out in Philly? That's not a surprise. And listen, we know he's overrated and the moves that they made. I talked about that last week, so you know what? But he's officially out. Let's see what they do to bring in. And Nick Nurse is staying, which is good for him. That wasn't on Nick Nurse. To me, the way that Sixers season ended, terrible. All right, so now let me lace up my skates and take a trip around the National Hockey League because we do have a conference final set in the West, and in the East, we still got to wait and see what's going to happen tonight. And to me, this is going to be another scenario of which team shows up because this Canadiens and Sabres series has been wildly unpredictable. And we saw what happened there on Saturday night, even on Thursday night, where the Canadiens won 6-3. And you thought to yourself, wow, now they're going to go back north of the border to Montreal to see if they can clinch this series where they'll be dancing in the streets on St. Catherine Street there in Montreal. And a game 7 where they had a 3-1 lead, even a goal by Arbor Xhekaj, who is their resident tough guy, who I probably scored a handful of goals in the regular season. And I thought once he scored, I'm saying to myself, oh, maybe this is the Canadiens' time. Maybe this is their night. But Buffalo then goes on, down 3-1, second period, to score not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, 7 unanswered goals. And they win 8-3. And now you have a game 7 tonight in Buffalo. I couldn't even tell you. If anything, I'm going to pick Montreal. Because that situation with the Sabres goaltending is a disaster. They start Alex Lyon. He gets pulled. And then they bring in the Finnish kid. I know his name I can't pronounce. Pekka Luukkonen, I believe is pronounced his name. And you would think by watching this, but again, there's just too many vowels, too much to. But anyway, I don't want to discount his name or by any means, I'm not making fun of it. But who knows what you're going to get from the Sabres goaltenders tonight? I don't know. And yeah, you would think, oh, they got the home ice. The home ice means nothing in the series now, as the road team has won the last 3 matchups. Buffalo game 4, Montreal game 5, and Buffalo game 6. So you would think if this is going to be a trend, that Montreal's going to win tonight. Now, I don't know. I would think the Sabres will somehow, some way find a way to win this game, but I don't trust their goaltending. And I picked Montreal to win, and I think I picked them to win in 6. But I'm going to stick by my prediction of the Canadiens winning the series. And I get it. They don't have the firepower that the Sabres do, but listen, I trust Dobish better in goal for Montreal than I do Alex Lyon or Pekka Luukkonen. I don't trust these guys. I mean, how could you at this point? And I won't trust them in the following series. And they're going to go up against a Carolina Hurricane team that's been, I think, on vacation since April Fool's Day. I mean, think about this. I was dissecting this earlier. Baseball, even if a team sweeps before a World Series, the most that they'll have as a layoff is a week, as evidenced by the Mets when they swept the Cubs in 2015, and then they had to wait a week to play Game 1 of the World Series against the Royals, and we know what happened there. I remember Denver 3 years ago when they swept the Lakers, and then the Heat and Celtics played that 7-game series where the Celtics were down 0-3, and then they came back to tie only to lose in Game 7 in their building. And they finished off the Lakers the Monday before the final started the following Thursday. So they actually had 10 days. Now, mind you, this is not a Stanley Cup final. I understand that. But you have a scenario where the Carolina Hurricanes last played. Think about this. They last played a week ago Saturday, which is already 9 days. Game 7 tonight in Eastern Conference, which means they're not going to play until Wednesday night, which is an 11-day layoff. If you think the Knicks have rust on them, what do you think the Carolina Hurricanes have? They probably have dust, rust, and mold on them at this point. And I understand that it's a Game 1 on Wednesday night where you're going to have to look at and say, what does Carolina have? What are they going to be able to do with a team that's coming off an exhilarating, crazy 7-game series between Canadiens and Sabres? Like, what are they going to have in the tank? Yeah, they're going to be well rested. Yeah, they're going to be raring to go, but are they going to be flat? 11-day layoff is 11 days. So how I look at it is that if you're Montreal or Buffalo, I think you want to go and win a rocking chair type game, similar to what we've seen here, 6-3 Montreal in Game 5 or 8-3 Buffalo in Game 6. Watch tonight be a triple overtime game to where they will literally be on fumes Wednesday night, and then Carolina's going to win 5-0. But I got news for you. I don't know how Carolina's going to come out. But with that being said, whether Montreal or Buffalo wins going away or it is a triple overtime thriller, Carolina's going to win this series. I'd say 5, maybe 6. Out of respect to both Montreal and Buffalo, I'll say 6. But Carolina's going to a final. They have swept their first 2 series. They've had plenty of rest. They've just been dominant throughout. Yeah, they were on the ropes in Game 2 against the Flyers, where they were down 2-0 and they won in overtime. And then, of course, they won in overtime the final game. But they were up 3-0. But to me, Carolina, I think they're just going to cruise to a cup final. So that's what you have there. And then with the West, I understand that Vegas, they outlast Anaheim, beat them badly there in that game number 6 there. What was it, Friday night? And for Colorado to beat Minnesota, where Minnesota had a 3-0 lead. And then Colorado came storming back, tied the game there late. They actually had 2 goals there late in third period, but McKinnon scored a goal, I believe, at about minute 40 to go. No, I think that goal was maybe a minute 20. Wasn't it 18:39 of the third? Anyway, he scores, and then Brett Kulak gets the overtime goal to where they dust off Minnesota, and they advance to play Vegas. And this should be a very entertaining series, I think. But Colorado, listen, they've had a big-time year in their own right. I get it that Colorado-Carolina isn't a sexy matchup, but those are the 2 best teams, and you'd want to see the 2 best teams. So we can combine all these matchups. Now, I will say this. If Montreal does happen to win tonight and play Carolina, if you're the powers that be in the NHL, I'm sure there's a part of you that would want to think that Montreal, if they made it to a final, it would be that much more intriguing. And when you really think about it, if you have a Montreal-Colorado Stanley Cup final, granted they've left over 3 decades ago, but you would have a Montreal-Quebec Stanley Cup final, so to speak. Because remember, the Quebec Nordiques, their bitter rival of yesteryear, the Canadiens, that is, they play in the same province at the time. They left Quebec to go to Colorado. So I'm sure if the Canadiens do happen to win tonight and somehow, some way beat the Carolina Hurricanes, which were the former Hartford Whalers, and they played in the same division, the Adams division, many moons ago. Here I am bringing back all these ties of yesteryear when it comes to Montreal. And they have to win tonight first, of course. But, yeah, I see Colorado. I think they have too much firepower. Vegas, listen, they're a team not too long ago won a Stanley Cup. They know how to win. They have a good culture there. I think Vegas will win 2 games. Could it go 7? I think it could, but Colorado, to me, they're on a mission. And when you look at the combination of Colorado and Carolina, combine them 2 in this postseason, they're 16-1. So that's what I'm looking at here as far as Colorado. I say in 6, they'll win that game. Or that series, excuse me. And obviously, tomorrow night, you'll have game 1 of the Western Conference Finals and then game 1 of the East on Wednesday, where tonight you have, and again, I'm picking Montreal. I can't tell you what score. Who knows? It could be 4-3. It could be 1-0, or it could be 7-2. I don't know. I'm done trying to figure that out and predict that series. So that's what you got with the NHL. And I don't think there are any other NHL news and notes. No, as a matter of fact, you do. I didn't mention this last week. I know Craig Berube got fired from Toronto. Not really a surprise considering that they brought in Matt Sundin and other people to be a part of the front office there for the Maple Leafs. And obviously they're cleaned house. They're going to start over and try to see what they could do. Remember, they got the number 1 pick this year, and that's going to be big for them. So Berube, who I have an affinity for, lifelong tough guy dating back to his days in Philadelphia with the Flyers. We don't know Calgary, actually played for Toronto, part of his career, the Capitals, etc. He's gone. And then you have Ryan Johnson, the new GM in Vancouver, along with the VP of Hockey Ops, co-presidents, the Sedin twins of Henrik and Daniel. So you get a lot of home cooking there with those guys being at the helm in Vancouver to try to turn their franchise around. So we'll see how that goes as we get into the offseason once we put a lid on the Stanley Cup playoffs. So you got that going on there. And yes, I see the comments. I will get to those people. So for those in the room right now, just hang on for me until I get to around 12 o'clock, another 18 minutes. But I still got a lot to get to, which I'll pivot right now from the NHL to get to baseball as I get into the batter's box. And, oh, what a weekend to be a Met fan. Let's unpack this for a little bit. All right, let's not think it crazy. It's a series in May. I understand it's against the hated Yanks. And I talked about this on Thursday's podcast. The pitching matchup did not bode well for them Friday. A little bit better Saturday, although you know it's going to be an opener. But Carlos Rodon in the second start back from his elbow issue with the loose bodies, which I guess that's the new term in this day and age. When a pitcher has loose bodies in their elbow, no, they're not bone chips anymore or bone spurs. I guess loose bodies is not a new terminology. Okay. And then yesterday with Freddie Peralta, I'll break it down this way. Friday night, you just knew Cam Schlittler. That guy, I got news for you. I'm not trying to jinx him by any means. If you had to pick who the Cy Young Award winners in the American League, he's your guy. I mean, the guy's been lights out. He's been fantastic, etc. And with Max Fried going on the IL, he's now your de facto starter or closer or stopper. That's what I meant to say. But now you have Garrett Cole, who's on the mend. He's one rehab start away from coming back. Although his numbers have not been great as he's moved up from single A, double A, now triple A. But he has touched 99 on the gun. So that is certainly promising if you're a Yankee fan as you welcome him with open arms, probably maybe as early as probably after this upcoming homestand. Although I would think they probably want him to start Sunday. I got to think about who their rotation is and where they could slot him because I'm sure they want to have him at home. Although the weather this coming weekend for Memorial Day is going to be atrocious. It's going to be rainy. It's going to be in the 50s, mid to upper 50s, and low to mid 60s. Where here in the early part of the week in New York, it's going to be summer-like. Today, 88. Tomorrow, 94. Wednesday, 91. After that, it takes a nosedive. So I don't know if Garrett Cole if it'd be right for him to be a part of the rotation this coming weekend, but who knows? We'll see. If they have a bad week, I wouldn't be surprised. And they got Toronto coming in for 4 starting tonight, and then the Rays, who have a 3-game lead over the Yankees in the AL East this coming weekend. But back to the series. So Switler was unhittable. I know Soto hit the home run. And the Mets, obviously, the third inning went away from the Mets there, where it unraveled for Clay Holmes. He gets hit on his fibula. He's going to be out. Not for the length that they thought it was going to be from the start. Because when you hear fractured fibula, you're thinking, oh, geez, he's going to be out 4 months. But it may be less than that. So that's a good sign for the Mets, but certainly not good going into the Saturday night game. But as it was, they got to Carlos Rodon. They scored 2 runs on a wild pitch in an error. And then you had Carson Benz, who was looking like the Bad News Bears out there, where Aaron Judge scored on a fly ball. But they were able to hold off the Yanks there. They scored enough runs there early on to make it 5-2. It was 5-3 before they tacked on another run there late. And were able to even the series. And then yesterday, more follies. Bo Bichette dropping a can of corn. And Bichette, I got news for you. He's drinking the same water Carlos Beltran did in 2005 and even Francisco Lindor in 2021. You would think at some point he's going to turn it around. And mind you, he got a big hit in the 9th inning there yesterday. But I don't know. This guy's in his head, trying too hard. That was inexcusable. At 4-1, he drops that pop-up where they scored a run. And I thought they were going to be curtains for the Mets at that point. I said, there's no way they're going to come back. Luis Torrens gets that base hit to make it 5-3. And here it is, 6-3 in the 9th inning. They get the first 2 guys on, including Bichette and Carson Benz. I know the drop fly, but it got a hit to start off that inning. A.J. Ewing, who they just called up this week, has shown you a little moxie at the plate, which you like. Got on base 3 times, got a triple, his first home run in the previous series against the Tigers, and showed you a little something here against the Yanks. But for them to get the 2 guys on, and then with 2 outs, David Bednar, who scares me. And I get you can say that for a lot of closers in baseball, but Yankee fans just a couple weeks ago puffing their chests out, and I'm saying, yeah, your bullpen's atrocious. And I know that may be a little bit too strong, but one guy I was back and forth with on social, and I came back at him, and he agreed. David Bednar, nowhere near Mariano Rivera. He's not even Aroldis Chapman on his best day. And what does he do yesterday? He hangs a curveball to a guy that's batting 185. And he ties the game with a home run down the left field line. And then the extra innings, I know the Yankee fan, they're done with Austin Wells. Swinging at the first pitch. Devin Williams, Devin Williams got a save and showed you something yesterday. And even Luke Weaver getting out of a bases loaded jam on Saturday night showed you something. Although they've both not been good. Devin Williams has been good of late. I'll give you that. And Luke Weaver, hopefully he can build off of this because he's been terrible. From what happened this Saturday night, bases loaded, nobody out. Gets 2 strikeouts and a ground out. But Devin Williams gets out of that. Nice play by Mark Vientos at first. 3-6-3. And then they scored a game-winning run there. Carson Benz with the chopper over the mound. You had the collision there with Volpe and Schulman, or Shireman, whatever the guy's name is, Schulman. And the Mets win the series. And here's the other thing you love about it. Not only did the Mets stun the fans, but also beat the Yanks in the process. But here's what the big-time stunner was. Before yesterday, the Mets were 0 for their last 91, trailing in the 9th inning. And it couldn't happen to a better opponent, number one. And number two, I didn't see that if it was 5 feet in front of me or 40 miles ahead of me. For Tyrone Taylor to hit that home run, maybe, just maybe, could this be the springboard for this Met team that's slowly but surely turning around? I mean, think about this. They were 5-1 on the homestand. They've now won 10 of their last 15 games. And now they go to Washington for 4 and Miami for 3. Maybe some payback after losing 2 out of 3 to the Nationals 2 weeks ago. And maybe, I understand different cast of characters, and the Marlins are always feisty against the Mets, But after that debacle in Miami to close out the year where they couldn't qualify for the playoffs after the Reds lost, could we owe them a little payback? And listen, I understand this may be a stretch. But if the Mets come out of this week with 2 series wins, 3 out of 4 in Washington and 2 out of 3 in Miami, they'll be 3 under 500. And the team, remember, they were 10 and 21. And now they're 20 and 26. Listen, I'll take 4 out of 7, split in Washington, but come on. This is their time to turn it around. So I don't hear any excuses about this team. Now, there could be a letdown. I can see the letdown tonight after a thrilling win. That's usually the case when it comes to the Mets after you're thinking, oh, wow, let's see them build off this. And then now tonight they'll put up a stinker. And I've had it with Freddie Peralta. Can I throw that out there too? And this is me being a Met fan, being objective. I've had it with him. Now, watching him turning around, the weather gets warmer, etc. But, his performance yesterday, he's a 6-inning pitcher at best, but predominantly 5-inning pitcher. 6 walks yesterday, walks the ballpark, strikes out a lot of guys, but, he is tough to watch. And again, David Stearns. I know the connection with Milwaukee, but, and they're going to need another pitcher. Clay Holmes is now out. So who they're going to pencil in there in the rotation, that we'll have to wait and see. We don't know Kodai Senga. I guess Sean Manaea, who a lot of people think after yesterday, might as well release him. Now, the Bo Bichette drop, that's not his fault. But that's another disaster of a signing by David Stearns. But wait, let's close this out with some positivity. Mets playing a little bit better. Their biggest win of the season by far. Let's see if they can build off that. And then the Yankees, listen, that is as bad as it gets. And now you got Toronto and Tampa coming in. Now, I know you want to get some payback against the Blue Jays, albeit a much lesser stakes here. And the Blue Jays have been a little bit better, but not great. And I understand they've been decimated by injuries. But now it's a situation where this Yankee team, where a lot of their fans have been puffing their chests out thinking, oh, it's going to be a big year, blah, 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 and they beat nobody. They lose to the Brewers, got swept, so happened there. Then they lose 2 out of 3 in Baltimore, and then lose 2 out of 3 to the Mets after winning the first game, a 2-7 road trip, and yes, the dregs throwing the Mets there, and the Orioles beat them 4 out of 6. I get it, ebbs and flows of a season, but all that yip-yap from the Yankee fan when they haven't even played anybody of note. And I know divisional foes here and the team that they're looking up in the standings this forthcoming weekend, which I'm sure they're going to want to get some payback after getting swept by them in Tampa last month. So let's see. You know I'm going to be zeroed in to see what they're going to do this week. So baseball, and you had a lot of these series this week. I know Cleveland beat the Reds 2 out of 3. The Dodgers, you don't want to talk about payback. Remember last year, they got literally swept 0-6 against Anaheim. This year, they beat them 6-0, 15-2, and what was it yesterday? 10-1 or whatever it was. So they destroyed them. And that's what you have there with the baseball. Other than that, you really didn't have much. Let me pull this up real quick if I look at their matchups. I know the White Sox beat the Cubs in the back 2 games of that series. And Murakami, listen, nobody had seen him play or whatever, but David Stearns, did he ever even pick up the phone to call that guy? But here we go. Yeah, as far as yesterday, yeah, Tampa won 2 out of 3. Baltimore and Washington, you had didn't the O's take 2 out of 3 in that series? No, they lost 2 out of 3 in Nationals. That's right. I thought they won on Friday. Yeah, a lot of this, I'm not going to go through divisions just yet, people. Although the Phillies, got to give it up. The Phillies have been, ever since Mattingly replaced Rob Thompson, they're now over 500. They've won 15 and 19, and now you got to wonder whether or not they're going to be on track here. Now, they're still 8 games back of the Braves, so I'm not even going to think about the division. And remember, the Braves beat them 5 of 6 earlier this year. So, although now over 500, and the Nationals just 1 game behind them in the division and a game under 500 in those standings. But yeah, listen, it's going to be come Memorial Day when we get to that point, and that's when I'll give you a bit more of an overview with standings and things of that nature. But you do have some big series that are going to start tonight in the sport. And the first one is Dodgers going to San Diego to play the Padres. And these are the 2 things that stood out. And it's funny because I didn't mention this Thursday, but, doing a little homework. Do you know that yours truly, Jay Reels, has as many home runs as Fernando Tatis, and I don't even play? You know what that is? A big fat donut. I was shocked. And didn't hit any home runs over the weekend. And do you know that Manny Machado is batting 182? How is this team a half game behind the Dodgers with those guys? And I get it. You've had contributions. Gavin Sheets has played well. Even Xander Bogaerts, 7 homers. He has 23 RBIs. I understand it's not a lot for mid-May, but for a guy that's signed a $285 million contract, which, let's face it, not a great contract by any means. But listen, they've done well. But that is your big series there. Reds in Philadelphia. That's a series of ilk. You know about Blue Jays Yanks. That rematch from last year. You have the Brewers in Chicago, another big series to play the Cubs. So that's one that a lot of people. Is that a 4-gamer? Let me take a look at that. That's important if it is. No, that is not a 4-game series. Cleveland at Detroit is a 4-game series. You know about Mets, Nats, and San Francisco, Arizona. But yeah, your series of note are those 2 biggies. Dodgers, Padres, and Cubs, Brewers. And you got a few fringe ones. You want to say Reds, Phillies. I know the Reds are in last place, but yeah. Atlanta, Miami division, but nobody's going to care about that. So that is your baseball for the weekend. You know the NBA and NHL schedule. Obviously, it's going to flip-flop from here on out. So, as I mentioned earlier, Game 7, Montreal-Buffalo, where Game 1 will be on Wednesday, and the West starts tomorrow, Vegas, Colorado, where, tonight, OKC, San Antonio, Knicks, Cavs tomorrow, and then they're going to flip-flop from here on out. All right, do I get to the NFL schedule? As I'm approaching the top of the hour, and I know the comments are still adding up, but I'm going to get to all of them, I promise. So if you can hang there, because now I'll go a little bit more rapid fire, but the schedule, I got to start off with the NFL as I put on my helmet and shoulder pads. Now, Mike North is the guy who oversees, and he's part of a group, as you know, when it comes to the NFL schedule. But I listened to an interview with him on Friday, and of course, he's not going to bash it. He's not going to critique it. He's going to look at the scenarios, and it's all positive. Oh, yeah, we did think about this. Oh, we did think about that. But, we felt that it was best to put this matchup now. All right, you give us all the lip service you want. Do we really need to see New England at Seattle Wednesday night to start the season? Didn't we just see that 3 months ago and how disastrous that game was? And his reasoning was, we get it that the Mike Vrabel angle with everything that's happened this offseason with the coach, and that's going to be a storyline, which, really, it's not about the game. It's more about him. But, them exacting revenge, them knowing that they could play better, so on and so forth. Do you know that they're going to raise the banner that night up to the Lumen Field rafters, wherever it may be? And that stadium, the team, everybody, they're going to be over the moon, knowing that they're going to feast themselves again against this quarterback and this offense? Did they not see what happened there the second Sunday of February? And listen, I'm not trying to forecast the game now to think that it's going to be the same thing, but you couldn't give me the Bears there week 1. You couldn't give me the Chargers. That was another team. I get it. You're not going to put Kansas City there. Or you can't put San Francisco or the Rams. They're playing in Australia the next night, as we all know with the schedule and the international games. There's 9 of them. We talked about it. But New England, Seattle, did we really need to see that? I didn't. And they wanted to have the whole Super Bowl rematch to be week 1 that they saw 10 years ago with Carolina, Denver. How did that game turn out? The last thing I remember about that first game in Denver on a Thursday night was Cam Newton was concussed and actually came back in the game. He was knocked out like midway through the fourth quarter and came back. And that game, I think it was like 13-6. Let me look that up real quick. I mean, that was a game that nobody, I mean, I'm a kook. I do remember. I went running that night. I was preparing for the New York City Marathon. I was training for it, and I had to go out and get my run in and all that. But that game was a disaster. And for the people that run the schedule and think that, oh, this is going to be one that a lot of people are going to try to sink their teeth into in the storylines, whatever. Oh, that game was closer than I thought. I thought it was like a low-scoring game. Yeah, Broncos won 21-20. Graham Gano missed a 50-yarder with 9 seconds left. All right, so maybe it was competitive, but I remember Cam Newton getting knocked out of the game. And that was a whole controversy too. So, yeah, they could only hope for that game to be like that. But, yeah, I hate the game. I hate it. And then you have a New Year's Eve game, which I understand is on a Thursday night, but it's Ravens-Bengals. People may be getting ready to go out and close out the year on a high note. Who knows? A lot of people stay home. I get it. That we know about Thanksgiving Eve. We know about Black Friday. Black Friday is Denver at Pittsburgh, only one game. So, yeah, I guess I'm going to have to save all of my chips for the day after Thanksgiving so I can watch that game as opposed to watching Packers-Rams on Wednesday night or Chicago-Detroit at 1, Philadelphia-Dallas at 4, the Thanksgiving night game. Well, the Thanksgiving night game. It's eluding me right now. It'll come to me. Oh, Chiefs-Broncos. No, that's a lie. Chiefs-Bills in Buffalo. And that's the thing. They got to spread these games out. I mean, they couldn't say that for 425. Listen, by the time you get to Philadelphia, Dallas, when you stuffed your face, then it's like, oh, hey, hon, now I got to watch Chiefs Bills. It's Mahomes and Allen. Less is more, NFL. Can't tell them that. But anyway, yeah, I've had it with the schedule, international games, and you got December 19th, the 2 games on Saturday that aren't going to be flexed, which is going to coincide with the college football playoff on top of Christmas Day, where you got the 3 games. And the Christmas Day games, what are they off the top of my head? I know that you have the Rams, Seahawks. That's your night game. The first 2 games I even forgot because I try to memorize NFL schedule. I know you have Seahawks, Rams. That's your nightcap. Yeah, Green Bay at Chicago and Buffalo at Denver. The first 2 games on Netflix and then the game on Fox at 8:15. And as it is, do they have a Christmas Eve game? I don't know if they do. Because that's a Thursday night, people. Christmas Eve game. Oh, yeah, Texans and Philly. So I understand Texans defense. But Christmas Eve, I mean, that's a lot of people. I know my family, we get together Christmas Eve. That game may be on the background, maybe. But that's time to eat, exchange gifts late at night. No, please. Nobody's going to. And what is that game streaming? Oh, that's Friday. It's on Prime. It's Thursday. Listen, I could destroy this schedule, and I could talk about how 1 o'clock, as I've said a zillion times, I don't want to bore you with that. But, yeah, the NFL, put it this way, the NFL on Sunday 1 o'clock, it's a thing of the past. It doesn't have it's not as special. It doesn't have that great feel as it once did. And you just got to thank the NFL for feeding all these mouths, the Amazons, the Primes, the Netflixes, the Peacocks, obviously CBS, Fox, ESPN, ABC. Oh, geez. So that's what I got there. And I know Devon Achane signed a 4-year deal to stay in Miami, 3rd highest paid running back in the league. Aaron Rodgers officially in Pittsburgh. Is that newsworthy? Is that a shock? I did say I would talk about it when it happened, but hey, if he can stay upright and they have more weapons this year, you can only hope that maybe they won't be 10-7. There's no Mike Tomlin, of course, but maybe they can win a division at 12-5 and be a 3 seed as opposed to be the 4-5 game. And listen, it's way too early to even get into that. But, Rodgers is your quarterback. They didn't have anybody else in mind. They didn't draft a guy. Well, they drafted Drew Allard 3rd round, but how I feel about him if you listen to me after the draft. What was that, 2 weeks ago? Maybe 3 weeks at this point. Yeah, it's 3 weeks ago. So that's what you got with the NFL. Now I can go rapid fire, people, and I'll get your comments, I promise. Let's start here with the PGA and the second golf tournament. I hate to say it. I was not intrigued. The top of the leaderboard was a bunch of who's who, guys I never even heard of. And that was more Thursday, Friday. Saturday got a little bit better. And then Sunday, the top of your leaderboard had Jon Rahm, who was was tied with Alex Smalley, 6 under. And then you had, who were the other 2 guys that were 5 under? Was the stroke behind them? Was it Justin Thomas? Yeah, Justin Thomas, I believe Ludwig Ackberg, who always seems to be in the mix when it comes to the top of the leaderboard. Those guys were 5 under. And as the tournament went along, I know Jon Rahm had a terrible opening 9 where he had a couple of bogeys and he fell out. And you had, I forgot who was in the lead there when you approached that after the first front 9. I know Smalley was there, but nah. But anyway, you had a scenario where there was one guy that had bogeyed 7 and 8, or maybe it was 6 and 7, and then eagled on 9, where he was 3 strokes behind the lead. And then all of a sudden, whether it was at 11, 13, 16, and then on 17 had the putt for his life, that 68-foot putt, albeit he had a 2-stroke lead at the time, and it looked like he was going to be a shoo-in to win the tournament. But if I would have told you yesterday morning that you knew who Aaron Rai was, I bet you nobody, unless you're a dying-to-wall golfer, could have said, oh, yeah, Aaron Rai, the Brit, first Brit to win a PGA in over 100 years. And I couldn't pick up, I didn't know who he was before yesterday. And even when I'm looking at the leaderboard as I'm following throughout the day, I was more on top of Mets Yankees than this tournament because, again, this tournament, it just didn't have. And Rory McIlroy was in the mix. He was 4 under. I know he got at it with a fan. One of the fans was heckling at him, USA, USA. I mean, come on. Get that guy out of here. Seriously, like that's supposed to ruffle the feathers of Rory McIlroy. And he didn't even acknowledge the fan, but you could tell that he was upset and cursed him out, which may be a bit out of line, but come on. That fan's going to get in his chant USA before he swings out of the and I don't even know if it was off the tee. But, yeah, just a terrible job by the fan. But now you have a situation where Aaron Rai, a guy who now will get the exemption there at the PGA in 5 years, get the invite to the Masters, U.S. Open, et cetera, and good for him. And a lot of people love him. McIlroy said there's not a guy in the clubhouse that doesn't like him. Fan favorite, a lot of people, fan favorite amongst the players on the tour. And kudos to him. And that's the thing. This didn't come down to the last hole or playoff or anything like that. He was 2 strokes ahead at 17, and he made that putt, 68 foot, and he even stood there. He didn't jump. He was just there like, oh, my God, I can't believe that ball got in the cup. And kudos. And other than that, I mean, listen, I couldn't get into the first couple of days. And, yeah, you want to see some guys that are no names, guys that, oh, well, who is this guy? But, yeah, the PGA, which I said on Thursday, they're not going to push it back to August where it belongs. And, yeah, it just didn't really have a good feel. I know the weather wasn't great the first 2 days. It was cool, chilly. And this was not too far outside of Philadelphia, really right down the turnpike. But, yeah, I couldn't wrap my arms around this tournament. Yeah, it just didn't have a lot of pizzazz. It started off slow. Yeah, guys, was it Chris Gotterups of the world, and who was the other guy's name? That Point Gator. I can't even pronounce his name. I know I'm butchering his name. Yeah, it just did not have any type of juice. any type of buzz. You did get it yesterday a little bit, but certainly not a lot of suspense or drama as you got deep into the back nine of yesterday where Rye pulled away with those birdies on 11, 13, 16, and 17. And that's your tournament. So that's number one. Number two, the horse racing. I did not watch the Preakness because why bother? Once Golden Tempo was out, and somebody brought up something the other day which was interesting, and you know what? They do have a point. Considering there was a long drought between Triple Crown winners up until the time American Pharoah won in 2015, and then Justify won 3 years later. All right, now we're 8 years without a Triple Crown winner. All right, still not a decade and a half, 20 years, etc. But I believe, because I don't want to hear this nonsense, I'm not going to run my horse 2 weeks after, there's a new era of horse racing, blah, 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 nonsense. Because somebody at least did win a Triple Crown within the last decade. But it was brought to my attention that a lot of these horses are pulled after the Derby because they feel, and they could use the excuse that, I'm not going to run them 2 weeks after. It's not fair for the horse or what. No, they've been doing it over 150 years. Why all of a sudden now the trend has become different? But because the urgency of winning a Triple Crown or chasing history or being that horse, the owner, that jockey, to have your horse win those 3 sacred races, the only 3 races that any sports fan or even the pseudo or casual horse racing fan could follow. They feel like, we're not going to go for a Triple Crown. We'll see you at the Belmont and win those 2 legs. But then could you imagine if Golden Tempo, which I would think he's going to run the Belmont, wins that, and it's not even going to be at the Belmont. It's going to be in Saratoga because they're renovating the track and the buildings and everything around it. But why? My horse won the Derby and the Belmont. Yeah, but you didn't win the middle one. So I don't want to hear that, my horse did this in 2026 if Golden Temple does run and win that race. To me, it means absolute squat. That's why there is some credence to winning a Triple Crown. Granted that maybe it's lost its luster over the last few years because we have seen 2 horses win in the last decade and a year. But it still says something about your horse winning those 3 races in a 6-week period. But I guess they don't care, at least right now. But let's see them go 15, 20 years without one. And I bet you these horses, I got to win a Triple Crown because I want my horse to be a part of history. I guess we'll have to get back during that time in order to find out. So that's number 1 as I give you my rapid fire. Tennis, I'm going to say this real quick. I understand Novak Djokovic is going to be the one guy, and he better be on the other side of the draw next week when the French Open begins, because if he's on the same side as Sinner and you're going to see them face off in a semifinal, that's going to be a disaster, and that's a terrible job on the Tennis Association for doing that. But who's beating Jannik Sinner? We know Carlos Alcaraz, with that wrist injury, he's not going to defend this title there at Roland Garros. And with Sinner winning the Italian Open, the first Italian man to win the Italian Open in Rome, and he beat Casper Ruud in straight sets. Please, whether you're Casper Ruud, Andrei Rublev, Daniel Medvedev, Taylor Fritz, Francis Tiafoe, Tommy Paul, I know I'm missing a couple other guys, Ben Shelton, Holger Rune. Listen, I'm going down the list of all these guys. They are not, and I repeat, not beating Jannik Sinner in the French. In fact, if Sinner does not win the French, even if he loses to Djokovic, it'll be an upset. And Djokovic beat Sinner in the Australian Open semi here in January. But with Djokovic, who has not had a good year so far on the tour, even though he did have a good run there down under, getting to a final before losing to Alcaraz. But to me, I can't even imagine what the odds are for Sinner to win this. His odds got to be like 7-5 or 8-5 to win the French Open. So that's why I'm putting that out there now as a receipt for next week. And then lastly, as I put down a tennis racket and get into the octagon, as I'm looking at my dog here, waiting to see if she's going to bark. Who watched that Ronda Rousey, Gina Carano fight the other night? Well, if you blinked, you missed it. And I got news for you. For Jake Paul and company, I don't want to put it all on him, but that's his production company. For that anticipated bout where I even talked about it a week prior because somebody brought it up here while doing the podcast. I said, you know what? I'm going to keep my eye on that. Guess what? I'm going to watch that. I'm going to see what this hype is about, whatever. And boy, that was Mike Tyson, Michael Spinks all over again. And in fact, that was an eternity compared to what we saw this Saturday night. That was just a choreographed, just staged, and I'm going to go as far as saying fixed event. There were even, and I saw a video that surfaced them going through the motions of how they were going to open the fight and, like I said, stage this fight. I don't know if it was AI. It didn't look like AI to me. But that was just an out-and-out disaster to the point where once Rousey got the armbar on her, Carano just tapped out right there. And then what did Carano do afterwards? Carano gets up smiling and hugging Rousey. And I know there's respect for one another, and I know it's a situation where I don't want to say they're friends, but they're not foes or enemies in that regard. But can we at least show a little like, all right, yeah, good, and that's it, and walk off, and then smile and go underneath the bowels of the Intuit Dome and then yuck it up and pop bottles and say, hey, we cashed out. Hey, we got our big payday. And then Jake Paul could go back there and toast with them, whatever. That was a complete sham. Thankfully, it was 17 seconds because, listen, you can't get back those 17 seconds. But, that was a bad night. I'm sorry. I don't care. Dana White, he could be rolling in dough. To me, that was just an utter abomination. And I'm going to end it on that note. Let me get to the comments. And please, people, feel free. I see my guy, Mark Salmons. I talked about you earlier on my podcast pregame. Isaac, I'm sure you're long gone. Thanks for stopping by, my man. I appreciate you. Remember me from high school when you punched me in the face in front of my crush? Oh. This is coming from somebody who, in my last fight, was in grade school, 4th grade, and the kid's name was Deion James. Good kid, even though we fought. Isaac, I know you laugh at that, but I do not remember that. You may have me mixed up with another Jay or Jason or Jay Reels, for that matter. I'm done with sports till football starts. Yeah, that was a crusher last night. That was. Does Cleveland really want to go out the bio? Of course, greetings to everybody here. J-Rod, Isaac, if you're still here with us. And I don't remember punching you. And if anything, if you're still here, who's the crush? Because then I could tell you like, oh, yeah, I do remember that because that I do not recall. I agree with you, Bio. I don't think they should either. Why? Here's the one thing. If San Antonio loses in 5, would he want to hitch his wagon to the Spurs? Why not? I would. But of course, you know what you're going to hear from the naysayers. He's got to hitch his wagon to a team that is ready-made for a title. Well, guess what? He's going to be 42 years of age come December. What do you think he's going to play for the Memphis Grizzlies? Or he's going to Sacramento? He's not going to go to Golden State. Although I can see that he maybe want to play with Curry. But no. And come to think of it, maybe he'd want to play with Curry. That may be all those rumors from a couple of years ago, whatever. But come on. That would be the smart thing for LeBron to go to San Antonio. Hey, pay me $20 million or whatever, because those guys aren't getting paid yet. The Stephon Castles, the Dylan Harpers, even Victor Wembanyama. Now they're on their rookie contract. So, yeah, even if LeBron said, yeah, I want $30 million, I'm sure they could fit him in. And that would be, let's face it, LeBron shouldn't go in there and demand despite who he is, et cetera. He should say, yeah, I'll go in there, 20, 25 million. That's it. Because what would he need to do? He won't have to defend. That's Victor Wembanyama. Yeah, he would be that guy to be the glue and to show this team how to win. That's it. I think that'd be the best spot for him. Val. What's this? Jamal Mosley? Pelicans. All right. Now, he's got that on his resume, as I talked about earlier, 62-38 early third quarter and not scoring a basket to save his life. Yeah, the Edwards thing was crazy. He pissed off a lot of players. Oh, did he really? I didn't see it. Were there quotes? I got to look that up. Yeah, I just didn't like. How are you going to do that? How are you just going to go to the other side of the court? And I want to, look how great he's showing sportsmanship. Yeah, I understand the game's over, but wait till there are 3 zeros on the clock before you do that. And you can stay at half court for 3 hours for all I care. But like I said, Michael Jordan doing that? Is Isaiah Thomas doing that? No, Isaiah Thomas may walk past Victor Wembanyama into the locker room. And did they do that with like 6 seconds left? Which, again, Bush League. But they're not going to do it 8 minutes to go. Jeez. Harry, no need to say sorry. It's true. I think Spurs are taking it 6. All right, Harry, no, listen. You have every right. And listen, I'd have to say, I would be shocked. And I would say shocked, not surprised, shocked. And maybe, am I overrating OKC in that regard? I don't know if I'm overrating them, but listen, that team is a machine. Spurs aren't. They have machine-like pieces, but we've seen a couple of hiccups here. We saw the hiccup against Portland in Game 2. We saw the hiccup in Game 4 when they were up 8, when Wemby was ejected. I understand it was on the road, but still. So, yeah. Ray. Wait, I'll get your comment, Ray. Hopefully you're still with me. Wemby needs to be I can't read. Wemby needs to be like Jordan when they gave Barkley the MVP. Jordan took it personally. Yes. And that's why I'm thinking this time around with SGA. Exactly. All right, Ray. I know you don't like dynasties. No, that's not the case. Here's my problem with dynasties. Because everybody wants to, in this day of people like myself, or not even like myself, even the Stephen A's and all these other people out there, they want to look at the Warriors as a dynasty recently. They won 4 and 8 years. Now, they did win 3 and 4 years. I get that. But to me, a dynasty, you got to win minimum 3 and 4 and beyond. When I think of a dynasty, and I understand this is your team, Jay Reels, I'm going to look at the New York Islanders. They won 4 in a row, but they won 19 straight playoff series. How about the Montreal Canadiens of the 70s? They won 4 in a row. In the 50s, they won 5 in a row. The Yankees, your Yankees there, Ray. Joe DiMaggio, 39-43, 5 in a row. 49-53. No. Yeah, 49-53. 5 in a row. Because they beat the Dodgers a million times during that stretch. They beat the Giants 1 year, too, in 51, of course. Those are dynasties. 3 or 4, it's cute. It's not a dynasty. Minimum 3. When you think of Shaq, Kobe in the early 2000s, what did they do? They won 3. Dynasty. Think of Jordan, the 3-peats back-to-back, in essence. I understand you had a 2-year gap with the Rockets, but dynasty. People will lump 6 to 8. All right, 6 and 8 years, it's dynastic because to win 6 titles in 8 years. But San Antonio, they won in 99, 03, 05, 07, and then 14. That's 5 and 15 years. All right, 1 every 3 years, but that's not a dynasty. They never won back-to-back number 1. Let's start there. I'm not even going to call the Heat, and the Heat won back-to-back, as you know, and they went to 4 straight, but that's not a dynasty to win back-to-back. Not my eyes. So I'm a hard marker when it comes to dynasties. So, oh, yeah, and you're welcome, Ray. And thank you for hopping on board, and thank you for being here. I appreciate you. You know that. And I appreciate everybody who jumps on board when it comes to this. Pittsburgh is not officially. Yes. You guys know how I feel about that. We were not going to NBA Finals with 13. Oh, you were 13 in 99? Yeah, you were down 0-2, and then Allen Houston had a big game 3. Game 4, how did game 4 unfold? I know game 5, game 5, Avery Johnson hit that shot at the baseline, and I believe the final score of that game, and that was wild. The final score of that game, I think it was like 78-77. But that was when the NBA was, ugh. Let me bring up Spurs-Knicks finals, 99. Here are the games. Oh, my God. It's almost going to be an eyesore. Yep. I hit it around the head. Look at the final scores of these games. Game 1, Alamodome. 89-77 Spurs. Game 2, ready for this? 80-67. Game 3, Knicks won. Allen Houston had 34, I mentioned. 89-81. Game 4, Spurs 96-89. And in Game 5, Spurs 78, Knicks 77. And I'll never forget, I was at, don't cringe or, I happened to be at Justin's restaurant on, 20th, between 5th and 6th. And I was standing there by the bar with a girl I was dating at the time. And yeah, having drinks, watching that game. And I remember Avery Johnson hitting that baseline jumper there. It wasn't at the buzzer. I think the Knicks had one opportunity and then they didn't. And then the Spurs won and that was it. Oh, memories as a sports fan. Don't remind me of that Spurs series Jeff Van Gundy ran Ewing into the ground. I know, and that was it. No Ewing. Yep. And Allen Houston. But yeah. And Marcus Camby too. What's up with this MLB player already with 20 home runs? What are you talking about? Kyle Schwarber? Yeah, Schwarber has 20. And Murakami is right behind him. Second question, who's the greatest home run hitter you've ever seen, steroids or not? That's a good one, Mark. Greatest home run hitter I've ever seen. Well, I can tell you like some of the guys I loved, but they weren't like the greatest ever. I'd have to say the greatest home run hitter I've ever seen. I'm not going to say Bonds. I mean, you could say Bonds, but that's a really good question because I know steroids are not. If you're going to say steroids, you're going to say Bonds, but I like Mike Schmidt, Reggie Jackson. Those are two guys because you want to couple that with postseason. You don't want it to be a thing where you look at a guy like Jim Thome. And I believe Thome was on that 05 White Sox team. And Thome has what? 600 and whatever, how many home runs he has? And Thome was a slugger. He's a big-time home run hitter, Hall of Famer. But is he the greatest? See, I look at Schmidt, I look at Reggie, because Reggie, you think about, obviously, Game 6 against the Dodgers in 77. And Schmidt, who won 1 million home run titles, MVP in 1980. I believe in 80 was 48, 121 when they won the World Series. Yeah, those two guys come to mind. Griffey, too. But Griffey never won anything, as you know. Yeah, you can say McGuire, Sosa. I'm not going to put those guys in there. Listen, I'm going with a former Yankee. I'm going to say Schmidt and Reggie. I mean, those are guys that the greatest that I've seen. But, I mean, that guy's had tape measures, Cecil Fielder. I know you like the tape measure home run, too. I mean, that's, to me, that's a good question, Mark. I like that. I got to give that some more thought, though. Val. That's good. I'm glad we can laugh here. Oh, look at that. Harrison Bader, former Met and Yankee. Yes, let's go Mets. Season is done. I don't know. I wouldn't be so quick to say the season is done just yet. And that's not just based on what's happened here recently. But, I mean, think about it. The Mets have played what now? 46 games? And if you do the math, there's still 116 games left. But I hear you. They still got a lot of work. There's 7 games behind the last wildcard team in the NL. So I like it when people are honest. I try to be honest all the time when I talk about my team, my honest opinion about them. No, and you were good, Ray, because you came out and said, hey, good series win for you. You didn't rub it in. You didn't try to say, you guys won by luck or whatever. No, I appreciate it. And I do the same thing. And I don't know if you heard my assessment. You know, Schlittler was unhittable. I know Soto hit the home run. But, I give the Yankees props when props are due. Now, of course, I came out and I said things about their bullpen and whatever. But it's all honest assessment from what I see. I'm not going to say stuff, to say, your team is this, your team's that, blah, blah, blah. So, for you is Bonds. Yeah, and Bonds was a Hall of Fame without the steroids. But Bonds has 73. The people think that I'm sure there's some people that think Aaron Judge is the single season home run hitting record. Val. Why haven't you talked about how more? Val B. Can't type about it. Yes, I know the whole name. Why is Mattingly so liked? Well, he was on a track for a Hall of Fame. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I mean, Mattingly put up monster numbers, especially 85 was an MVP. What was he, 35, 145? I believe that year when he won the MVP. Didn't he have 230 hits? 230. And he batted. He didn't win a Triple Crown, though. I mean, Mattingly, if it wasn't for his back, he would be in a Hall of Fame. And who knows, maybe one of these veteran committees, they may put him in. But to me, he falls short in my eyes because after 89, that was it. He was not the same player. He was great defensively. He won, I believe, 10 Gold Gloves. Listen, Mattingly was a lock Hall of Famer, and you know what? Let's put up his numbers. He got a lot of black type by his name, led in hits, runs scored one year with Ricky Henderson ahead of him. And Ricky had monster years too, especially with the Yanks. All right, here we go. Mattingly. Ready? Yeah, look at the black type. Led in doubles 3 times, led in hits twice. 86 is when he had 238 hits. And that wasn't his MVP year. All right. Plate appearances once, but led in hits twice. Doubles 3 times in 3 consecutive years, 84, 5, and 6. 145 RBIs, led in RBIs, led in batting average 1 year, led in slugging and OPS, total bases, was top 3 in the, can we get widescreen, please? Was top 5 in the MVP 3 times, top 10 4 times. But yeah, after 89, that was it. In 90, 102 games, 5 homers, 42 RBIs, batted .256. In 91, 152 games. Wait, let me see if I'm seeing that. Yeah, 152 games, 9 homers, 68 RBIs, .288. 92, 157 games, 1486, .288. 93, 134 games, 1786, .291. 94, that was the year when the Yankees were really good. 97 games, 651, 304. Average was good. Power numbers were not. And then in his final year, 128 games, 749, 288. That's why he's not a Hall of Famer. But before that, 84, led in hits, doubles, 23, 110, 343, led in batting. The aforementioned MVP year, 85, no need to get into that. 86 was second in the MVP to Roger Clemens, I might add. 238 hits, 53 doubles, 31, 113, 352. Led in slugging and on base, in OPS. He did not lead in on base. He was 394, though. 87, 186 hits, 31, 15, 327. 88, 144 games, 186 hits, 37 doubles. Now, he was 1888. Power numbers were down, but he did bat 311. And then in 89 was 23, 113, 303. I mean, come on. The guy was on his way to Hall of Fame. But he's not a Hall of Famer, though. Not in my eyes. Mark. Ryder's got the correct vote. Well, based on what I just said, there's no way. But look, you thought he was in Hall of Fame. What about John Jones punking Rampage on his own podcast? Oh, did he really? I didn't know that. I didn't see that, hear it. No. I am who I am. No, I did not follow that. I guess I should look that up then, right? That's the problem. Dana White's rolling in dough. They could have worked out a couple of rounds, but Carano's going back to Dizzy. She could risk her face getting. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I mean, you destroy your product. You destroy the credibility when you have something like that. You talked about me, hopefully positive. No, I was positive. Yeah, because I brought up, not about Hal Morris, I brought up in the podcast pregame. Jeez, I got to go back and think. I thought I brought up some numbers regarding a team or a player or something. And I said, oh, and Mark's not here to listen to it. I got to get my charger because my laptop's about to expire. So let's do that. Oh, here we go. Your thoughts of being Fuqua, a.k.a. Rhoda Penmark, Everyday Mets, Jonathan Sean Cup, Kai Bowie Bull, Tatsuya Mai, and don't forget Minnesota Fats. Hang on. The better prospect. How about Ryan Clifford? Guy's hit 1 million home runs, AAA, but I know his average is low. Listen, I like what I've seen out of Ewing so far. And Benj, listen, how you dropped that ball the other day. And Ewing is small sample size, so I can't get crazy. But Ewing has showed you a lot. Yesterday, 3 walks. He got that hit. Hit a triple. Homered. He's got his first home run. He's done that all in a week. So, listen, I could easily say Ewing does, but it's small sample. Between the two, I'd only say Benj now because Benj is coming out a little bit more ballyhooed than Ewing. And the only reason why they brought up Ewing is because the team's been decimated by injury. So, do we remember 99? Was strike short season 50? I remember. Nowadays, the NBA season. Yeah. No, I remember that vividly. And they played that schedule. They were playing 3 games in 3 nights, 3 different cities, which they used to do back in the day. But no, I remember that well. Yeah, and they would do that. I know. You're probably thinking bio of the COVID year when the Dodgers were, 43-17? And listen, that's a legit World Series. I get it, 60 games, but what are you going to do? So I don't look at that as anything but. I'm looking at my dog. She's going to lay down a mat. Bonds, was it before steroids? No, Bonds was Hall of Famer before steroids, but obviously the steroids took him to another level. Cavs be sharp playoff tested. You root for the Cavs. Yeah, that's the thing. And yeah, I just see that being a short series. Yeah, I just see it being a short series. I don't even know what to say about that. But Knicks will be rusty. That's why the Cavs got to pick them off tomorrow. Not Bonds. I mean, Schmidt and Jackson were great, though. I mean, Schmidt, what he had, 548 career, and Reggie had 563. I know Bonds had 762. But Reggie had clutch moments. Bonds, other than the 0-2, he hit that home run off of Troy Percival. Well, I think it's still going. Now, listen, I understand you want to put Bonds there. I can't argue it. But I could certainly debate it. Might as well throw Griffey, yeah. Had that beautiful swing. Yep. Hit one out of Milwaukee County Stadium and Tiger Stadium. Numbers don't lie. Oh, here we go. He will laughs, laughs. Yeah. Wade Boggs was better than who? Wait, was better hitter than Mattingly? I'm curious. Is my favorite. Yeah, that was a good card. Wait, is that the one with him? In the field at first base with his glove on the dirt? I think it's that one. Mattingly was, huh? Yeah, that was absolutely rookie season. Decent player. Yeah, decent. Check, please. Do I think he's watching my content? I'd say no. You'd say definitely. Well, if you are watching, Hal, I'd love to have you on. Oh, Vlado. Yes, he is, Mark. Is he really? No. Vlado, welcome. How's your mom? Please. I'm working, so I popped in to say hi to you all. Question, how should we treat Harden? Yeah, listen, the jury's still out. How I'm going to treat Harden is this. Yes, with usage rate and per possession, I get he's an all-time scorer. But is he a winner or a winning player? Now, he could still write a story. Because listen, and I'm not trying to put this guy in the same ilk as Alex Ovechkin, but how many years Ovechkin, and he lost brutal playoff series in 7, series when he had a 3-1 series lead as a 1 seed against Montreal in 2010 and lost. How many years he lost to Pittsburgh and Sidney Crosby? He had excruciating playoff losses. And people thought he never won a cup. And when he did, it erased everything. And for Harden, listen, if he wins a ring and he's a big contributor to that, you got to give him his due. Or how about A-Rod? All those years with the Yankees, never delivering, never coming through to the clutch, never getting a big hit until 2009. And you could talk steroids, you could talk this, all you want. I hear you. But A-Rod was responsible for winning that World Series. Beating the Twins in the divisional series, beating the Angels with big home runs, big at-bats, and then the biggest one of all in Game 4 when they had a 5-4 lead and he got the big hit. And that, in essence, won the World Series. Uh-oh. Should Jay check the L? Now, why would I do that? Oh, yeah. All right. Some players. Yes. Here's another guy. You know what, Mark? Here's one for you. Now, I understand he was way early in his career. Not in his career. Early in my youth. Played with Mike Schmidt. Does the nickname the Bull ring a bell? And I gave you 2 hints there. Who he played with and what his nickname was. That guy hit bombs. Greg Luzinski. But you get some good names there. Mickey Tettleton, a Yankee farmhand, I might add. Peter Gavilia. Yeah, Adam Dunn. Yeah, they could smash. You know, there's another guy who hit bombs, home runs? Russell Branyan. Remember that guy? Seattle. He had a home run at the new Yankee Stadium. He reached the upper deck to where the entrance was. Yeah, you have a lot of those sluggers. One guy I was thinking when Mark asked that question, who I loved as a boy, was Dave Kingman. Oh, man, Kingman hit bombs too. Oh, that's all right, Val. Nah. Wait, agree to call by? Because come on, it's Val. Yeah, no, Dunn was a beast. Reds. Here was the thing about Dunn, and you could argue that he is part of the problem of what baseball is today. And like I said, you could argue it. Adam Dunn was a guy that was a slugger, home run hitter, walked a ton, walked over 100 times a lot, good on base, but he struck out 200 times a year. And that's what these analytic geeks want. Power, walk, strikeout. Don't you want contact? Makes no sense. I want to pull up his numbers in a second. Mike's girlfriend had a... Is that right? Of course. How bad was bad? Even I'm curious about that one there, Mark. All right, so Adam Dunn. Played for the Reds, then went to Washington. Wait a minute. No, I don't want this guy. Adam Dunn. He had 462 homers, batted .237 for his career, 1168 RBIs. I mean, look at these numbers. He's got black type all over, but mostly strikeouts and walks. All right, here you go. Ready for this? Adam Dunn. 40 plus years home run. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6, but he did it 5 years in a row, albeit 46, and then he did 44 straight years. But yeah, he led the league in strikeouts 4 times. And now he only led the league in walks twice. But has walked over 100 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times, and led the league twice. It's crazy how you can have such a good eye at the plate, but then strike out, as he led the league 4 times. And he struck out, let's see, I'll say 170. Struck out more than 170. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right. Scrolling back up here. Yeah, Dunn was a slugger, but yeah, what was his lifetime? 232? 237. I mean, look at these strikeout numbers. 170, 126, 195, 168, 194, 165, 164, 120, 177, 199. I mean, still looking. Hold on. Yeah, the thing with Dunn, hold on. This is what happens. Squinting here. I got to get my glasses. I always forget. You know what's funny about Dunn? Check this out. His lifetime OP... No. His lifetime on base is 364, where you say, not bad. In this day and age, that's actually good. You want to get 400. But check this out. Let's say just 380 and up. So 38% of the time he's on base. He did it 1, 2. 7 times. And wait. 1, 2, 8 times. Now, the one year you only played 44 games. So that, I guess, you got traded to the Diamondbacks. So if you combine it, that was 386. All right. So, yeah, it's still over 380. I mean, for a guy who was on base as much as he is and walked a lot, like I said, he walked over 100 times, 8 times. But he struck out. I mean, one year he struck out 222 times. He led the league in strikeouts and walks one year, which is crazy. Yeah, Dunn is fascinating when it comes to that regard as far as those numbers go. All right, let's see. Where I'm at with the comments. Oh, here we go. Them fools were trying to ride motorcycles that day. Oh, geez. Is that what that was? Wait, Larkin's brother Stevens and Craig. Oh, is that right? Jeez. Yeah, he hit out of the stadium. Which stadium? Definitely not Riverfront. Oh, way to go, Val. Good to see. Good to hear. Yeah, that's weird. I know. And again, when I'm trying to read off some of this stuff, especially when it's not the black type, I can't even see this. Yeah, and he hit the 40 home runs, 41.96. And not only that, I remember he batted leadoff quite a bit throughout his career, too. So, all right, people, if you have anything else, that will just about do it on the podcast. But when I close out, I'll make sure to get back to your comments. So please, if you have any other comments, as I go through my closing, I'll be more than happy to follow up on those questions. Let me just get to your comments back here. Oh, here we go. Mark Simmons, you can call me any name. Yeah. The stadium. Oh, yeah. The Great American, what they call the Great American Small Park. Yeah, he did hit. I should have known that. I was thinking the stadium outside of Cincinnati. Yeah, but I know he did hit one out of that stadium. The bandbox that it is. But yeah, no, that'll maximize. Okay. That'll do it, my good people. Another episode just about in the books. As always, thank you so much for stopping by, carving out precious time out of your day to listen to what it is I have to say about what goes on in the toy department of Life Called Sports. And if you haven't done so, please subscribe to the channel right here on YouTube at JReels. It will go a long way to increase the visibility of this channel among so many others. I put up 2 videos there on Friday. You want to check out one on Major League Baseball. Will the fan come back in 2028? Even if there's a lockout in 2027. And then I got a little nostalgic as I went back in history 39 years ago, which was Thursday, the last great bench clearing brawl in NHL history and how it changed the sport forever. That's a good one. I definitely check those out. Obviously, the podcast is on Apple, Spotify. Please throw me a few stars, write a review on any of those platforms or wherever you get your podcasts. I'd appreciate it. And if you want to hit me up with any questions, comments, suggestions, you can do so at the following on my social media accounts: Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, the JReels Podcast, or JReels, just the name itself. Twitter, JReels1, just the number. Twitch, JReels1, just the number. The old-fashioned way to JReelsPodcast at gmail.com. I'll be more than happy to follow up with you guys and gals because whether you do or do not know, this is what I love to do, people. It's in the blood and the DNA. As you know, talking sports is birth. And as long as there's competition, as long as there's a ball and 2 teams that play against one another or a puck or whatever it may be, you know that anytime I sit in front of this microphone and camera, I promise I will deliver nothing but passion, fire, energy, fury, my thoughts, opinions, critiques, praise, analysis, feelings on anything and everything that happens on the world of the diamond, ice, gridiron, hardwood, golf course, racetrack, tennis court, boxing ring, octagon, you name it. From my lips to your ears, from my heart to your soul, from where I am to wherever you are, the JReels Podcast always comes live, correct, direct, and in full effect. From the South Bronx, the South Beach, the South Central, the South Pacific, and all points beyond. Peace, love, and God bless everybody. Enjoy the rest of your Monday. I'll see you Wednesday on the live stream at 12 noon Eastern time. And until next time on the J Rose podcast, on the flip, baby. And let's see. Fuqua, you're welcome and thank you. Glad your leg's better. I know your forearm all messed up, but yeah. So, come on, Mark. Are we going to really go at that? He's not. Wait a minute. Val wasn't dissing you. No dissing going on here, please. Soaked beard. Definitely count out the Knicks. Nothing to worry about, right? Definitely count them out? Why, you don't think they're going to win? I picked them to win in 5. So, unless you want me to count them out to give you a reverse jinx to come back to me and say, I told you so. Yeah, I'm not going to do that because I know that the Knicks should win that series. If they lose the series, oh my God. When will the Knicks ever get to a final? Seriously, when? She was. All right, Mark. Come on. We could do better than that. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Let's leave this on a high, peaceful note. Unless there's anything last. Well, let me see what's happening in sports real quick before I say goodbye. Yeah, we know about Mosley. Yep. Thanks to Val. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, nothing else going on. All right. So there you have it, my good people. All right. Again, many thanks to you all. Hopefully I'll see you all Wednesday, 12 noon Eastern time. This is more of a live stream where you can get at me, get back and forth. It's all good. Smart. You don't have to worry about doing that. Until next time, everybody, on the flip. I appreciate you all. Thank you all. Much love. Thank you for the support. Until next time on the flip.